Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Fantasy Football Podcast. Thoughts, analysis, and information to help you succeed in your fantasy football leagues. I am your host, Chad Lyon, and I am here, as always, with Tyler Bevel.
Hey.
And our producer, Mitchell Bird.
Hello.
This is episode 2 of Division by Division, and today we have the AFC and NFC East. But before we get started, this is really hard. Tyler, top 3 all-time comedy movies. Go.
Ooh, man, coming with
one.
the hard questions right out of the gate.
It is tough.
Dumb and Dumber.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Happy Gilmore.
You like that, old man?
And Office Space.
Yeah.
Very respectable list, sir. Mitchell, your turn.
Oh boy. Let's see here. I'm gonna go say Blazing Saddles,
Hey, boys, look what I got here.
Super Troopers.
All right, man.
I gotta say Grumpy Old Men.
It's a good top 3.
Love the grumpy old men.
Oh, Walter Matthau was incredible. I'm going to go with The Big Lebowski, Anchorman,
Don't act like you're not impressed.
and Superbad.
McLovin?
I'd watch any of those movies right now.
Me too. All right, podcast is over. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate All right. Tyler, you want to start with the AFC East?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Buffalo Bills. So 3 questions, really. We'll go 2, 3, 4 questions for each team, see how much time we can get out here. But let's start with the Buffalo Bills, and let's go with which pass catcher will benefit most from Josh Allen.
I think Dalton Kincaid is the target hog here, but I'm going to
Strong
say
agree.
big uptick from Khalil Shakir. I think Keon Coleman, I think he's really good. I think there's probably going to be some struggles with what he's expected to do year one. But I'll say this year, Khalil Shakir, big, strong uptick, and Dalton Kincaid is a target hog in this offense.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, rookie, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, veteran. He's a great football player. I just don't know how fantasy relevant. He has been in the past. He's had his moments, especially in Washington. Had his moments in Carolina. Yeah. After Kincaid, I think there's going to be a nice uptick for Shakir. I'd take a flyer on him. But, boy, if I had to lean on one, I think it'd be Kincaid. I really agree there. Backfield. Can this be a 50-50 backfield for James Cook? And if so, could it be Ray Davis?
It could be Ray Davis. I don't think it's 50-50 week one coming out of the gate, but
No.
I think Ray Davis earned some opportunities, especially if Cook keeps making mistakes such as fumbles and missed blocking assignments. I think Davis gets on the field, and I think that could be a problem for Cook owners.
I have to think that's going to be a short leash too.
Yeah.
Like they're not, well, I mean, there were some evident issues last year, albeit give him a slight pass because he did show out a little bit later. But Josh Allen's not getting younger. They're not that he's old, but they're not going to put up with it for very long. And Sean McDermott's, I would have to assume, is on a little bit of a hot seat. So if you got a player that's constantly like, come on, man, like, what are you doing? And you got someone like Ray Davis behind him that you just drafted, I mean, you might give that a crack.
And I think this offense is going to support that more. I don't think this is the Bills' offense that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years. And just going by their off-season activity, I think they're going to try to play more like they did at the end of the year, run the ball more clock management. I think that opens up some more opportunities for Ray Davis, too.
Okay.
You worry always with a quarterback like Josh Allen when you're talking about the running backs about red zone touchdowns because Josh Allen just eats those up.
Sure. You don't think he scales that back at all?
No.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, he just seems like you're not going to get that out of him. Like, it's just what he does, and you just have to kind of let him do it.
Yeah, I just think that's how he plays. Especially down there in the red zone, like Josh wants to take off. Like if there's a open lane, a seam, seems like he wants to go for it a little bit of.
It's something that makes him good. And like, I remember a couple years ago, it was, we really want Kyler Murray to maybe slow down the run a little bit. And it's like, but that's why he's good. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah.
And that same idea kind of goes with Josh Allen. Like,
Josh Allen,
what he does, and to make him stop and pull it out of him it's like pulling teeth from someone who don't want it done.
Right. And I get what you're saying, but and Josh Allen can't do this forever, but those two are built very differently.
Sure. I understand that, man, but you can't tell a guy who's good because of something he does to stop doing that something he does.
No.
You don't do that. Like, you don't tell Lamar Jackson to stop running or to
No.
scale it back, or it's just, you can try. But
Yeah, you got to hope for the best. And I mean, you're talking Josh Allen, QB1 fantasy football player 1 last year. I mean, it works for him.
yeah. So with all that running talk, we obviously expect a run heavy approach or a run heavier approach. Are you worried at all that it affects Josh Allen's numbers drastically as a passer, or not really?
Not really.
Because he's so efficient when he does.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just, especially like when you're talking overall, maybe as a passer a little bit, but his running game, I don't see any.
He's going to score points.
Yeah, I don't see any world where we live in where Josh Allen is in the top 5, probably even top 3 quarterback at the end of the year.
I have no real concern. There is concern out there, but I mean, I'm always all in on Josh Allen. I mean, he's unreal. Okay, let's move on to the New England Patriots. What exactly are we expecting from this offense? Do we think they're going to ease May in? Or is this we heavy draft capital, we're going to let them go early and often?
I think May's coming out week 1 as a starter.
Well, yeah, for sure. But are you just...
I'm sorry.
I'm asking, are they just going to let them loose, let them rip, just go? Or do you think they're going to lean on the running backs a little more and ease them into the process?
I think that's what they want to do.
Okay.
Now, whether or not, I don't think you want that, like with Washington last year, you don't want the Sam Howell situation where you got a young guy in there just slinging it around 40, 50 times a game. And I think they would like to avoid that if at all possible.
Yeah.
I think this team is going to struggle. They could run the ball, possibly. I just think it's going to be a struggle, especially I like Drake May in the Dynasty League. He's not probably even my top quarterback of the draft, even in that range. Like, I'd probably take Bo Nix over him still at this point.
Sure. That's reasonable.
Yeah, it's close, but I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains this year for Drake May. And I mean, you're talking too, like, not only is it Drake May is a rookie, like a lot of their receiving core is a rookie coming out this year. So, I mean, I think it's going to be some serious growing pains for this team.
So are we expecting pretty slim fantasy production from this team overall? I mean,
I think Drake May is only startable in a super flex.
sure.
I don't,
Right.
you're not.
But is that going to affect the other guys? Like,
Sure.
yeah. Like, if there's one guy on this team, it's Ramondre Stevenson, right?
Yeah.
Or later on Gibbs, maybe. I don't know. What pass catchers are we feeling good about? Or pass catcher? Is there any that you're like, yeah?
Yeah, Demario Douglas, I think for his ADP, I like him. Javon Baker is intriguing, the rookie. I'm not a big Jalen Polk fan. We've talked about him in the previous podcast where he's not really super good at any one specific thing. Pretty good possession receiver, but I think you're leaning on a guy like Demario Douglas and hoping that he can make a lot out of Yak.
Yeah. Well, to go back to Stevenson and Gibson, what do we expect out of the backfield with these two?
I think I expect more of a timeshare than a lot of people think. I think Antonio Gibson gets in there to a certain extent, and it's split backfield. I don't think it's going to be the Stevenson show that we've seen the last couple of years. I mean, I know even with Zeke there that he kind of was the lead guy, but Zeke still got some work, and I think Antonio Gibson brings a lot more to the table as a pass catcher, and I think he gets on the field and puts a dent in Stevenson's fantasy points.
Okay. Demario Douglas's ADP is 185. Superflex Dynasty. Yeah. I mean, you're taking a flyer. So why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, back to Stevenson and Gibson. Yeah. It's good. There's going to be a timeshare there. Is Gibson due for a bounce back, do you think? I mean, as good of a bounce back as you can have.
Yeah, I think
in a timeshare.
I think Gibson has a fantasy relevant season this year. Somebody definitely
flex guy.
Yeah.
RB3.
Not saying every week he's going to be a flex, but RB3 flex and with some upside there.
Okay, cool. New York Jets. Is Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson you think they're set for like a legit good fantasy year together?
Yeah.
Because, man, I am like screaming at the sky for some Garrett Wilson. I'm ready for this thing to get going. This is the year, you think?
Oh, yeah.
I sure hope so. What's the ceiling for Garrett Wilson, do you think?
Top 5 wide receiver.
Top 5?
Top 5.
Boy. That's a...
You're talking the ceiling. I'm not saying but I think there's potential for him to be a top 5 wide receiver there, yeah.
I could see that. If all goes well. Yeah, he's got to be pumped to be getting Rodgers back.
Yeah, well, think about who he's played with and like that just untapped potential, and now he has a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
I was really pumped for that last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I about cried when that happened.
I felt bad for Jets fans, just that whole organization in general.
That's tough, dude.
And nobody wanted to see that week one come
No.
out. You wanted to see what was going to happen, whether you're a Jets fan or not. You were curious to see it play out.
Yeah, I was.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, I'm still high on Garrett Wilson. I'm as high as I was last year. Like it wasn't his fault. And he's clearly, I mean, man, some of the things that he did with like Zach Wilson under center, like
That's what I mean.
man, oh man, he was spotty fantasy wise because of. But man, if you watched him, I mean, what was he supposed to do?
Oh yeah.
Balls sailing over his head, way out left, way out right, skipping in the dirt. I mean, and the frustration started to take a toll there at the very end.
For sure.
Who's the handcuff to Breece Hall?
Braylon Allen.
I have to agree. I have it as our lads actually has it as Hall, Allen, Isaiah Davis, and Abanikanda. I have a hard time believing like Abanikanda just gets shoved right out like that. Right out. Like he didn't get that much of a shot, but they're in New York and I'm not, and I'm sure they see what I.
Yeah, but there's a lot of time between now. Get some like those guys are both going to get preseason work, see what they can do, and.
You think it ends up being Braylon Allen though?
As number 2.
Yeah. I have I like his. We talked earlier a few episodes ago. I really like his tape, man. Landing spot's tough with Breece Hall being one of the few kind of 3 down backs, right?
Yeah, and this is a traditional handcuff.
Yeah.
Old school handcuff, because I don't think Braylon Allen gets a ton of work.
Right.
If you're taking him as an insurance policy to Hall, because I do feel like Hall is on the field for a large percentage of plays.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Who do you like behind Garrett Wilson? Anybody? We are talking Aaron Rodgers as a QB, so.
I mean, looking at it and just going by tenure, like I feel like I have to say Mike Williams, because then it's Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson. Unless something pops with Malachi Corley.
I think out of that group, Malachi Corley is the guy I want to take a shot on.
Well, yeah, because Mike Williams is going to be injured all year again. Like he's constantly hurt, and I've seen enough of Lazard. I've seen enough of Gibson. I don't know that Jason Brownlee's much to write home about. I mean, yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised to see an uptick from Lazard with Aaron Rodgers coming back as well. But I think Malachi Corley is definitely the guy out of that group that I want to take the shot on and play off the upside.
What about Tyler Conklin?
Could be sneaky.
Right? I kind of wondered that. I was talking with someone the other day, and man, that could be a nice late round pick. Just as far, I'm not going to bank on Tyler Conklin as my tight end one, but
Rodgers likes his wide receivers though. He's had he had a couple good years with Tunyon, and even when Jimmy Graham was there, like there was
a little bit there.
Bennett, a little bit,
Finley.
Michael Finley, but I mean, he's a wide receivers quarterback if you're talking from that standpoint.
That's true. That's a good point. And he's with Hackett again, so now you have Rodgers with his guy from Green Bay.
Right.
So yeah, I do like Tyler Conklin though. He is kind of a sneaky dude. Okay, let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. Is it realistic to think that Tua is a top 10 quarterback with the weapons that he has? He finished 9th last year. What do you think?
If I have to take a guess right now, if Tua is top 10 at the end of the year, I'm saying no.
No,
I think he's just outside.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man.
He was 9th last year for a reference point. Fantasy points QB, he was 9 last year. I think they've improved. I think Jalen Wright's a factor at the running back position. And there's a lot of, and he still has a weapon. He still has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, but there was a lot of throws that were run after the catch touchdowns. And I just don't know.
You see that slowing down a bit? Teams figuring out Miami some, or?
I just don't know if it's a realistic thing to bank on from year to year.
To just keep doing that over and over. Yeah, all the yak stuff that is just falling in his favor.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill is going to get his yak, but I mean, it was excessive last year. And I think even last year, it slowed down as the season went on. But at the beginning of the year, God, what was it? Denver? They put up 70 points, and there were just so many passes that were just the middle crossing routes, and then Hill would take off. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if that's something that you could bank on. So I think he drops outside of the top 10 this year, and that offense can run the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, so at a certain point, I think that there's a balance there where probably some more rushing touchdowns, less of the yak touchdowns. So my guess is Tua outside the top 10.
So with that said, are you thinking possible regression for Tyreek Hill coming, or do you expect them to just keep doing Tyreek Hill things even as he's aging?
Yeah, I expect for this year for him to keep doing Tyreek Hill things. I don't think the cutoff's there yet. There's just, when you watch him on the field, minus the Kansas City game where it's brutally cold at the end, you just don't see that slowdown yet from Tyreek Hill. Like,
No, he seems to have plenty of gas in the tank yet. So, I mean, I'm still drafting him right around where I would last year, I guess. Okay. So talking about running more often, how long before someone like Jalen Wright becomes relevant?
not long.
Is it going to take an injury?
Yeah, I think.
Because Mostert, I think, is still like McDaniel's guy. Like
Yeah, and Mostert's been good for McDaniels. To his credit, like,
sure.
Raheem Mostert was excellent last year, had a great season, but I think that the end is near. Was 30, going to be 31 in the season. I think Jalen Wright is the guy of the future, and I think it starts this year. Maybe
Whether
not
it
right
be
out of the gate.
maybe closer to mid to back end.
Yeah, but I think it eventually, curiosity is going to get the best of them. They're going to be like, well, let's see. Even last year with A-Chain, they were bringing A-Chain, and I think A-Chain would have played more last year had he not gone through some injuries and stuff. And I mean, the potential, we've talked about the potential for Jalen Wright. I mean, that could be serious.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm really intrigued to see how that whole thing pans out. Quick before we move on to the NFC, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham. Is that the order that you're expecting fantasy production? Hill, Waddle, Beckham? Is it possible at all that Beckham outpaces Waddle?
No.
I don't think so either.
I think the fantasy production order, this is just a shot in the dark, but I think Malik Washington is the third best producing wide receiver on this
Really?
team. Yep.
Interesting. Boy, you think Odell's going to go for that?
Probably not, but I mean, like, yeah.
Man, I'd have to say that would be like a slow, eventually, maybe closer to the end of the year. No, you're saying way sooner than that.
I mean, Odell was on the Ravens last year, and he was kind of the 3 there.
Right.
I think this is a better wide receiving core.
Do you think Malik Washington can just all out, just eventually just take the spot?
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Yeah, and I know Odell had good games at the end of last year, but he is a player that, unlike Tyreek Hill, where he's not the player that he was in 2019.
No.
I mean, it's and even last year with the Ravens, a lot of what you think that the Ravens were doing was like Odell was out there to get attention. Sure, he got some routes and stuff a lot, but a lot of times they were just sending him, get a guy out there with him, and I don't know if Lamar was ever really looking for him with the ball. A lot of those instances, I don't know. But I just think I like the talent with Malik Washington. Mike McDaniel likes his speed guys. Odell doesn't have near the speed that he used to. I think Malik Washington could step in there and be the number 3 wide receiver for this team.
Okay, that's interesting. That's kind
Also
of a hot take,
factoring
Ty.
in Odell's injury history. I mean, it's
Sure. That's a very valid point. Okay. Malik Washington over Braxton Berrios. We've seen enough of him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And no tight end love here. Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe.
Jonnu intrigues me a little bit, but
They just don't use tight ends.
No.
Man. And it's always like random stuff going on.
one
with
week
tight
they'll have 2 touchdowns and 4 catches, and then they won't catch another pass for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, yeah, I got no interest in Miami tight ends. Cool, so that's it for AFC East. Let's move on to the NFC East and go with my hometown boys. Let's go with the Philadelphia Eagles. What are we expecting here with Kellen Moore now at offensive coordinator? Because just some snippets from things that he said here. He says he can, or he intends to adapt to the players he has. So that's kind of a little open-ended. He showed he can, be a balanced play caller and adapt with the Cowboys and the Chargers. So are we thinking, what are we thinking here? Are we thinking more of a run-heavy deal? Or that doesn't seem right under Kellen Moore. Maybe more pass-heavy?
I would probably lean a little bit more pass heavy if I was going to pick one. I think it's going to be a pretty balanced offense. I mean, there's weapons everywhere.
Yeah. It's either he's just going to balance it right out. This might be a really good thing for skill players in Philadelphia. Like, as far as guys you might want. Saquon be like a top 3 guy in this offense, you think? I mean, I have a feeling they're going to run his wheels off.
I lean toward being a little bit more of a committee than a run his wheels off situation. So I'm going to say no for a top 3. I think the ceiling is within the top 3, but my prediction is no, not top 3.
Really?
Yep.
So you thinking that Shipley and Gainwell could get some real time here? Do you think that it's going to be enough time that it cuts into Saquon and makes you worry maybe about drafting him when you did?
I'm not. If I like Saquon, I'm drafting him. And I don't know that I think he's going to cut in enough time to affect him as a fantasy player other than being outside of the top 3. I don't like the run the wheels off situation. I don't know in this point in his career if that's a smart move to do with Saquon. And if they do try that, I have my doubts whether he gets through the season.
That's fair. I have this gut feeling that they're just going to hammer him.
Yeah.
I just do. I don't know why. You put him behind this line, which I know you've lost Kelsey. I understand that. It's still a good line, though. Maybe it doesn't take as much work as we're used to seeing. Like, it used to take Saquon a lot of work to score, to have a good, relevant fantasy week. Maybe it just doesn't take as much work.
I think that's a solid point because, I mean, if you're figuring even 15 to 20 touches in this offense, you got to assume that that's an uptick from what he had with the Giants. As far as production, too, I think that's a great point.
A little easier to get that production than what it has been. You're not the only guy. And go ahead and stack the box. Good luck. That's a really bad idea.
Weapons around you, too.
So, he shouldn't have to worry about anything like that. You know what else I have a hunch on? I have a hunch that Devonta Smith is about to have his best year. What do you think?
Yeah. I expect a big year for Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown in this Kellen Moore offense.
Dude, it just feels like I'm thinking of Dak's best year with Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Score points, push it down the field, sling it. And he kind of did the same thing with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
When he was in LA. So maybe the best way to look at this, they're not necessarily going to run Saquon's wheels off. He's going to be able to create more damage, more fantasy output with a lot less work. And maybe the Eagles maybe Kellen Moore just has them just slinging it way more than we're used to seeing. That's kind of where I'm at. And so with that said, I think Devonta Smith could have his best year. And I also think A.J. Brown could have a fantastic year, just like we all kind of assume he should. Yeah, I think there might be fantasy points kind of aplenty all the way across the board.
I'll definitely buy into that.
And I'm not being a homer. I'm not being a homer at all. I mean, it's Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, a way above average offensive line, and Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator who likes to score a lot of points. It's got the recipe of fantasy goodness, if that makes sense.
So what's the ceiling for Jalen Hurts?
Oh, I think Jalen Hurts could be
Is QB1 out of the question?
I'll say top 3.
Top 3?
Yeah. I'm not ready to say 1. Got Josh Allen there and Mahomes there and Lamar Jackson, and I don't know that he'll be 1 either. Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was Allen, Hurts, Mahomes.
Okay.
And yeah, is that fair?
Yeah.
That makes me wonder, is there too much going on here for Dallas Goedert? Is he going to be a little spottier than we like to see?
I hadn't really thought about it, but I would say probably more than we're used to. One thing I did look at when I was going over stuff here is Dallas Goedert caught 9 third down passes last year. That's not a good number for a tight end. You want
right.
that, and
well, he was hurt for a little bit.
He was the year before 13. So
yeah.
Jalen. It almost tells you that Jalen's not really looking for him when he needs it either. And I would like to see Jalen get better at that.
Yeah.
Don't try to force it to A.J. Brown every time.
Yep.
You have other good weapons there. You can dump it off to Saquon now. Devonta Smith is a top-tier wide receiver in this league. I think best thing with Kellen Moore coming into this is spread the love around, and this offense could be super
It
productive.
really could be. The forcing it to A.J. Brown thing got frustrating.
Yeah.
And it was because he was throwing his ass all over the line.
Especially at the end of the year when everything was
all
starting
over
to
the
fall
sideline.
apart.
He was just losing it. And Jalen was kind of feeding into that. I mean, there were moments, obviously I'm an Eagles fan, so watch all their games. I was coming off the couch like, what are you doing? There's wide open players to the complete opposite side of the field. He 2 and 3 guys on him, and Hurts is just trying to force it in there. That has to stop. And if it does, and they buy into Kellen Moore's system, this could be kind of fantasy aplenty.
I want to talk to you about Will Shipley.
All right. Tell me about Will Shipley.
You don't think he's going to be... You don't think with what you've seen on tape that that's a guy that could get in there with a 29-year-old back? You think it's going to be run Saquon, he's the most talented, have him on the field? And
I think for the most part, yeah. I mean, games when they are clearly handling things and handling their business well and, feeling like they kind of have things in the bag, I feel like Shipley could get in there and spell him some.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're like, oh, we have to get him on the field. I mean, when you have Saquon Barkley and pretty seasoned and does what you asked him to do, Kenneth Gainwell.
What happens if Saquon goes down?
I think it's just a split.
Just a 50-50 committee at that point? Fair enough.
But with that said, I think Will Shipley he's good, man. Like I like what we talked about it, several episodes ago. I like what I see on tape out of him. It's just
I'm a sucker for Will Shipley's style like that.
Yeah.
He and the best person I can compare him to in the league right now is Isaiah Pacheco. Like he runs angry.
Yeah.
Like he's aggressive. Like he wants to be the aggressor running the ball.
I agree with that. I just don't know outside of Dynasty. I have a hard time with it. Like if you're going to get anyone to have that backup, it's Gainwell to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Dallas Cowboys. 3 questions here. Who's the lead back in week 1, Tyler?
Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay. You don't think at all like it could be Dowdle? Like it's just not going to happen?
No, I think Dowdle's going to get in there. But I think Ezekiel Elliott leads the touches for this team. I think it's more of it's not going to be the 2016 Zeke. It's going to be a committee. I think Mike McCarthy's been pretty outspoken as to saying this is going to be a committee. So I think Dowdle gets in there and gets some work. I think you're expecting 10 to 12 touches a game for Dowdle.
McCarthy wants to run the ball.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, more of you can't have Zeke in there all the time. It's not going to happen.
No, and I do think this team is still going to be able to run the ball well. They took some hits. They lost Viadaz and Tyron Smith. I get that, but replace Tyron Smith with Tyler Guyton. Not the same level player, but first round pick. I mean, I think that kid's going to be fine. Cooper Beebe could be an absolute steal in this draft at center. So I still think this Dallas offensive line is going to be very good. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. But I think it's definitely a committee with Zeke taking the 55-45 workload or 60-40.
He really seemed to slow way down last year.
So did you see the thing that people are showing right now, though?
No.
So what is it? Pro Football Focus does like the stats. Zeke last year clocked in at a higher miles per hour time than Tony Pollard.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head, but Zeke was like a mile or two faster at his fastest point last year than Tony Pollard. I think Zeke does come in rested.
That's a fair point.
He didn't get a ton of work in New England last year. I think Zeke comes in rested. I think he's happy. I think he's back where he wants to be. I'll say this as Zeke's ADP. I like Zeke.
Where's his ADP?
So in Superflex leagues, which is what I'm looking at right now, Superflex Dynasty, you could get Zeke in round 14.
So if you've built more of a win now type roster by that point,
Take that pick.
yeah, I could see that.
Not to mention,
If you're taking that,
one of the things that Dallas really struggled on last year was goal-to-go situations.
Mhm.
And they had a hard time punching the ball in short yardage situations where I think Zeke gets almost all of those goal line carries. I don't think Rico Dowdle is the guy who's coming in and taking that goal line work away from Zeke. I think he gets all those. And honestly, I think he could surprise people this year. Like, it would not surprise me at all at the end of the season if Zeke is a 1,000-yard back.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, if he's going to get most of the attention and get the, right out of the gate, how big of a split? Are you thinking 50-50?
No, I
No.
think Zeke gets to share like
60-40.
60-40.
Yeah, that seems about right. Jake Ferguson. Is he going to have a legit breakout season? Do you consider last year breakout? Pushing it, right?
Yeah, I would say it was a breakout.
Breakout light.
Yeah, light breakout.
There we go.
Like a light beer. It's a light breakout.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't, he wasn't knocking doors then. But my only concern at that point is Luke Schoonmaker.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Did you consider him in the way last year or before he got hurt? Schoonmaker got hurt and Ferguson kind of like took it and ran with it.
Right, but that's what worries me, that he's going to steal some work from
That's what I'm
Ferguson this
saying.
year.
So, man, I'm actually going to hang my hat and say that Jake Ferguson has a better year than last year.
Are you?
Has a legit breakout. Yeah, I'm pretty in on him, man. I like what I see. Dak loves him. He's not afraid to throw the ball to him. He's tough with the ball in his hands. I don't feel like, in fairness to Schoonmaker, he didn't get a chance to really show out because he got hurt, and I don't really know what would have happened there. Like I don't know if this offense supports two tight ends. Maybe it does, but at that point, you're kind of throwing fantasy points out the window when that happens. I don't really like that. I think Ferguson did enough last year to just, I don't know how you can deny it. Just be like, well, we don't want to get him the ball as much. Like, why would you do that? I don't understand why. He's shown that he's a tight end one. He's young, but he's coming, man. I think I like him in Dynasty too. Man, you get him too late, it seems like to me.
And I think the hang up of Schoonmaker, and I drafted him in a couple leagues already this year. I like Jake Ferguson. The Schoonmaker thing is the only worry that I have because I think the talent's there.
His tape is great.
Yeah.
Like if you go back and look at Schoonmaker's, I don't know if it's Schoonmaker. If you go back, his tape is odd. Like I totally understand why they drafted him. But now at this point, it's like, why disrupt this great thing that you have going between Dak and Ferguson?
Right.
Like what's the point? And you're going to, I don't know, man. Behind CeeDee Lamb, it's Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, Ryan Flournoy, and then it's Ferguson and Schoonmaker. Like, you really telling me like Tolbert over Ferguson?
No.
Cooks over Ferguson?
No.
No. So why not? Why
Yeah.
I don't, other than Schoonmaker, that's the why not, right? I think Jake Ferguson has a legitimate, not breakout light, just breakout type season. And I think where you get him, I'm all in on that.
Risk versus reward, where you're getting him is, I have no problem drafting Jake Ferguson.
I wanted to see where his ADP was. 91.
Yeah, so round 8.
Yeah. Why not? After him, if you're in a dynasty league, I guess.
That's your drop off. Because after him, you're talking David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet. Now, here's one that I don't really agree with where he's ranked, but Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I don't. Well, there's a lot of. You got Nico, you got Tank, you got Stephon Diggs, you got Joe Mixon. Like that's, to me, Dalton Schultz could turn touchdown or bust type tight end.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many, it's gonna be hard to get him the ball. He's
a lot of mouths to
CJ
feed
has
there.
got people to keep.
No, that's
happy.
a good point.
And I feel like Dalton Schultz is that kind of guy where it's like he'll be like, yeah, I'm here. I'm not gonna raise much of a fit. Like it's
No.
all good. So
Catch a touchdown here and there.
yeah. So I really like Ferguson there. You catch him before that drop hits.
Yeah. I mean, and, to me, it is a drop after Ferguson.
You think Ingram goes down this year then? Doesn't have quite the year he did.
Evan Ingram?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good year, but I think I feel like last year was his ceiling. But
So what if you're in a win now situation with your team? Are you still taking Ferguson over someone like Ingram?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Me too, because I feel like he's like that win now is right there, man. He's right on the cusp of being like a win now type tight end. So yeah, I'm all in on Jake Ferguson. You got anything else for? Oh, hey, let's. I was wondering this. Does CeeDee finish the season as wide receiver 1
Yes.
over JJ,
Yes.
over Chase?
Ooh, Chase is tough. But yes.
Okay, over Tyreek.
Yeah.
Over St. Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, so CeeDee is wide receiver 1 of 1.
Jamar's tough, but I will say that CD is the clear alpha on this team as far as wide receivers. Where Jamar Chase, even though he is the alpha wide receiver, you're still assuming T. Higgins is there, and CD's just a catch hog.
And I would agree with that. We just kind of talked about it. After him, like, we're kind of thinking Jake Ferguson is his best target getter.
Right. I mean, that's nothing against Jake Ferguson, but it's
so CD, JJ, Chase, or CD, Chase, JJ.
CD, Chase, JJ.
I'm with you, 100%. Totally agree. Dak Prescott still. I mean, you take Dak Prescott and you just be happy with it.
Yeah.
And you know what I like about Dak? You can draft almost a complete starting lineup before you have to take him.
Yeah. Show me the season where Dak Prescott wasn't a top 5 fantasy QB.
Yep. He always does, man. I mean, they really.
Like nobody.
They really kick the bucket when the postseason hits, but who cares?
Your season's over.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right. But in the regular season, I mean, he led the league in touchdowns last year. He never it just always seems like there's certain players every year that don't get the respect that they deserve as to where they're drafted. And I feel like Dak Prescott is one of those players who is almost always going to outperform where you draft him at.
Yeah. Look, I've won leagues with that guy, and just like I said, had couple solid running backs, a handful of good receivers, and a tight end. And I'm like, well, Dak's still there. And that just seems to happen year after year after year after year.
Dak Prescott is also one of those quarterbacks, like in a bad game, he's giving you 15, 16. In a good game, you're talking 35 points. I mean, there's a high ceiling there with Zach too, because it's not like he's one of those quarterbacks that's going to have games where he throws for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like that can just happen with Dak, or he can run a touchdown in and boost his score there. Like, you could make the argument in Dynasty, like with the contract situation, is where does he end up if, last year of his contract. So if Dallas doesn't re-sign him next year and Jerry Jones does his thing that he does and Dak ends up playing somewhere else next year, that could be a worry, but it's not for me. I feel like he's good enough that he's going to be still a fantasy producer.
A good fantasy producer.
Yeah, very good.
Yep, I'm still in on Dak. All right, New York Giants.
One thing I'd like to bring up, not to cut you off there, but I think.
Well, you did, but it's okay.
I know I did. Jalen Tolbert is a person that I think has an uptick on that.
You like Tolbert?
Yep.
All right. Let me scroll back up.
And I know Brandon Cook seems like he's been in the league for forever, but I don't know. And Tolbert is one of those late round or late draft dart throws that you could take that I think could be a hit. You're taking him at almost the back end of a draft, and I just think that that's the type of risk that I want to take at that point in the draft.
That's fair. Okay. All right. New York Giants. Can Daniel Jones support Malik Neighbors' ADP?
No.
Oh, man. Oh, boy.
Do you think he can?
No. It was just where I don't know. No. No hesitation at all. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Redraft, his ADP is 20. No, thank you. His ADP is 20, and you're telling me he's going before Debo, Cooper Kupp, Devonta Smith, your guy Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, T. Higgins, Tank Dell.
He's going before all those players?
His ADP is 20.
No.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
I believe you on the ADP, but there's no way. I'll be honest with you. I had a guess. I was thinking I couldn't remember off the top of my head. I thought 20 to 25, maybe a little bit back.
Wait, I might have had that wrong. Let me double check that. Give me 1 second.
Well, unless Meek Neighbors is 8.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Everybody out there. I screwed up. Malik Neighbors is 37.
Still no.
Yeah, still no. I mean, back of the third round.
Right.
No way.
Back of the third round, early fourth. I still don't think that's going to pay off.
It's ahead of Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's not done. He could have a really good year. We'll get to that.
If Cooper Kupp stays healthy, I don't think. Just to get back on, because the question was, can Daniel Jones support? No, unless Malik Neighbors' ADP is 70. I don't think Daniel Jones can support that. I think there is a very, very high chance, especially with the way that contract is set up, that Drew Lock is the quarterback of the Giants by the end of the year.
You think so?
Yeah.
Really?
Do you think that they're going to, at this point, Daniel Jones come out there and he's just not playing good weeks 1 through 4? just for a frame of reference. Do you think?
I mean, they're not really going to care. It's not he's not their guy.
No.
They didn't.
And they can get out of this contract after this year. So,
yeah.
I mean, even last year, like, even, he had the neck injury and stuff. I get that. But, Tommy DeVito played for the freaking Giants last year. I think the leash is very tight for Daniel Jones. And I think if he doesn't come out early and show that he can manage this team, I think the leash is short, and I think somebody else gets in there. I think it's Drew Lock.
So basically what you're telling me is, like, there's just no fantasy production from this team at all. Don't take any Giants players. Because you're telling me Daniel Jones and Drew Lock, man, like, redraft, I don't know that.
If I'm a Malik Neighbors owner, if I took Malik Neighbors, I want Drew Lock to start. I'm not even going to lie about that. Drew Lock played a couple good games at the end of the year. I think he's matured enough that you can't flat out tell me that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Drew Lock at this point.
That Daniel Jones isn't better?
Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. I don't believe that that's a just solid cut. Oh, Daniel Jones is the guy.
Yeah, Daniel Jones has shown me nothing other than he can run a little bit. And when he does in the open field, he trips over his own feet and falls down in front of the end zone.
And this isn't a thing that we've seen, for a year or two. This is year 5 or 6 for Daniel Jones?
Yeah, it's kind of getting old.
Right.
What are we doing?
Drew Lock started, whole thing in Denver for the last however long.
Yeah.
Horrible situation for Drew Lock to get into.
Sure.
He goes to Seattle. He's a backup for a little bit. Has a couple good games under his belt. I think Drew Lock is, honestly, I wonder if he's the best option. And Drew Lock also, not that it might be great for real life, Drew Lock is a gunslinger, in my opinion, at heart. So if you're looking for your guys to get a shot, whether that be Malik Neighbors, not really any of these other wide receivers that I'm interested. So let's just say Malik Neighbors at this point. If you're looking for him to get a shot, I think your best chance is for Drew Lock to get out there and sling it around.
That's a really good point, Ty. You really do your homework.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
Okay. With only Devin Singletary and Eric Gray of note being in the way of Tyrone Tracy, could he climb ahead?
Yeah.
Ahead of Devin Singletary?
Yeah.
Yeah? You think they really like him?
I think it's
like to that level. I don't know. I wish I had in front of me what they paid Devin Singletary. I wish I knew what his contract. Not that it really matters. If they think he's doing better, then they'll give him a crack, right?
I think Devin Singletary has the benefit of the doubt.
Sure. Immediately.
Yeah. But he's not a back that I'm saying
he's not a world-beating back.
No, I wouldn't even call him a workhorse. So I think Tyrone Tracy gets some work, even early in the season. Not saying it's a lot of work, but he's a dynasty player that I want.
Yeah, that's fair. He's in the situation that you want a dynasty running back to be in anyway.
Devin Singletary signed a 3-year, $16.5 million contract.
Okay. Oh, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt for sure. Redraft, I might take him and, stick him at the bottom of my bench.
26, so still a lot of life left there, you would think.
Sure.
Devin Singletary has been the leading rusher for both teams that he's been on. When he was in Buffalo, he was the leading rusher. When it was Houston, he was the leading rusher. And last year, that surprised me with Dameon Pierce. I didn't see that coming.
Right.
So I think there's something there with Devin Singletary, but I very much think of this as the Giants want this to be a running back committee. They're coming off the Saquon thing. That didn't work out great. As far as, they had a lot of injuries with Saquon, as a workhorse back. I think they want this to be a running back by committee. I think they want to spread the ball around a little bit here, get some different guys on. I think, are you willing to take a shot on Tyrone Tracy? I mean, rookie redraft, where are you feeling him at?
Late third into the fourth. It just kind of depends on your situation, but in a dynasty rookie draft, yeah.
One of the better rookie running backs coming out for opportunity, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the better landing spots for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, redraft, even if I don't have Devin Singletary, I'd stick him at the bottom of my bench. Just because I don't know what's going to happen there. And by that point in the draft, why not, right?
Yeah, could be one of them dart throws that hits.
Yeah, maybe by week 9 or so, things are changing, 10, 11. Who knows? It's hard to tell. Theo Johnson. Can he overtake Daniel Bellinger, or is it going to take an injury or something else other than just his play?
I think it's going to take him becoming a better blocker.
That makes sense. Daniel Bellinger's a good blocker.
Yeah, but when you're going for just raw talent, I think Theo Johnson is far superior in athletic ability and what he can do catching the ball and after the catch. I think Daniel Bellinger's blocking keeps him on the field to a certain extent, and I think they're going to have to see that Theo Johnson can be a blocking tight end before he gets a serious amount of work.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. His blocking is pretty rough. Before we move on, any other interest in any other receivers? Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt.
If I'm taking a shot at one, it's Jalen Hyatt, but I mean, I'm not.
Isaiah Hodgins.
No. If I'm taking a shot at one, it's Jalen Hyatt and then Wan'Dale Robinson, but I'm not excited about any of them just with this quarterback situation. And again, maybe I'm the oddball, but I feel better if Drew Lock ends up being the quarterback for any of these guys because I think he's willing to sling it.
In redraft, honestly, my favorite players to take here, it's going to sound weird, but Singletary and Tracy.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
I don't know what's going to happen here. And again, I've seen enough of Daniel Jones. And to your credit, man, I hope you're right. Drew Lock gets in there. Hopefully people that have Malik Neighbors bank off that, but we'll see. Washington Commanders. So should we expect like a relevant boost for the pass catchers in Cliff Kingsbury's offense here?
I know like the running backs are new minus Brian Robinson Jr., but I'm expecting an uptick from this offense as a whole.
I kind of am too.
And I mean, Sam Howell passed the ball as good as you could have expected him to do it last year.
Sure.
I do have some concerns with this offensive line.
Yeah.
But I think Terry McLaurin has a better year than he did last year. I think Dotson has a better year than he did last year. I want shares of Luke McCaffrey. Austin Eckler at his ADP seems like a steal.
Yeah. What would we have his ADP at? 130. Goodness, man. I think you have to jump on that. So 130, that's referring to Dynasty Superflex startup. You get to that point, I mean, you should be able to look at your team after round 10 and go, am I win now or am I looking more for the future with this team? If you're looking for the future, I probably would go elsewhere. But if you're looking to win now, you can get Austin Eckler that late in a Cliff Kingsbury offense. A guy that Kingsbury probably looks at and goes, that's the kind of running back that I need in my offense. It's just his skill set is perfect. I'm taking that jump, man.
Yeah.
Now I think around him.
2-year, $11.4 million deal.
Okay.
For Austin Eckler. So, I mean, but I think they want to use him.
I do too. And just for a little frame of reference here, his Dynasty Superflex ADP is 130. If you're looking at yourself as a win now team, you're looking around him. Say you need a running back at this point. This is where you're looking. You're looking at Austin Eckler, Devin Singletary, Zach Charbonnet, Zach Moss, Brian Robinson, and James Conner. And win now, I'm going to take that dart throw at Austin Eckler over everyone. Now, who else is close to him is Chase Brown and Jalen Wright. If you're the latter and you're looking long term, I would probably pass Austin Eckler and look more for Chase Brown or Wright and Brown in that order. I just really like Jalen Wright. Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah. Win now, you want Eckler. And I think you can make the argument, win now, you're looking at Eckler, Connor, more players like that. If you hit that spot and you're thinking like, well, kind of looking ahead at the future, I like Jalen Wright, but I'm very intrigued by Chase Brown. We touched on that.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz is another player on this offense where his ADP is just, you can get this guy at the very end of your draft.
Yeah. Yeah. Take Sinnott first. So are you talking, you're talking Superflex Dynasty?
Yeah.
If you can get Zach Ertz at the end and sooner, obviously much sooner, take Ben Sinnott. I feel like you got Zach Ertz for when he's playing and when he inevitably gets hurt. Not that we like to bank on that, but I mean, let's be honest about where Zach Ertz is in his career. You got Ben Sinnott ready to go.
But I think Ben Sinnott, and I know he had a good year at Washington. I don't think he gets the work that people. I think his ADP is high.
It's going to take an absence.
Yeah, and Zach Ertz familiar with Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. I think he's still got enough gas in the tank that if he's on the field, he'll
produce.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're not looking at top 5, but I don't think it's out of the question to think that Zach Ertz could have quite a few top 10 tight end weeks if he's on the field. I mean,
Rookie quarterback
throwing him the ball, familiar with the offense. And again, you're taking him possibly with the last pick of your startup draft.
Yeah, that's a really good point. How about Terry McLaurin? Does he get a bump? Or Dotson? Do either one of them get a bump, McLaurin or Dotson?
I think there's a lot of untapped potential there with Dotson that we haven't quite seen yet.
I agree.
I think these guys are pretty neck and neck, though, as far as output by the end of the year. Both good receivers, both good route runners.
Are you looking at McCaffrey at all in redraft or more dynasty?
I definitely want him in dynasty.
Yo, for sure.
Redraft, I'd like to, I guess, see how the offense shakes out. Not that you have that option.
And it's a bottom of the bench.
Yeah.
For now.
Stash him, see what happens.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
in a
with you on
perfect
all
world,
that.
you're looking at McCaffrey just ripping people up in the slot.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like he's going to be the slot receiver to me.
And you would think he's sorry, I didn't mean to, but
No.
would think he's getting on the field in the Cliff Kingsbury offense where there's quite a few
Spread
three
him
wide
right
receivers
out.
that spread the field out. You would
Yep.
think that McCaffrey is getting on the field. So yeah, I'd take McCaffrey in both redraft, and I definitely want him in a dynasty format.
Okay. In fantasy terms, how effective do we expect Jaden Daniels to be year one?
I don't think a top 10 finish is out of the question.
A lot of running.
That's why
for him.
Yeah,
for him.
that's
Like,
why I say a top 10 finish isn't out of the question. I don't think as a passer he's going to be able to sustain that. But if combined with his rushing ability, I mean, yeah, like even we've seen it before lots of times with young QBs. I mean, Jalen Hurts, even last year with if you small sample size, but Anthony Richardson was not great at passing the ball last year. But if you take that, you expand that to a full season, those are big fantasy numbers with what he's doing on his feet.
athletic quarterbacks, man, it is the way in fantasy, in my opinion.
It's cheat code.
Yeah, again, I've said before in the past, it's almost to a fault with me. I love athletic quarterbacks, man. It's just they tend to get dinged up more than your traditional pocket guy.
And that is a concern with Daniel.
Boy, he took big hits in college.
You're not going to get away with it.
No. He's got to get down. He's going to have to stay healthy for this to work. If he does, man, I think he has underrated pocket presence and accuracy. Top 10's a little generous, but I would say top 12.
I'll stick with top 10.
Okay.
If I do have a knock on Jaden Daniels that I want to see more of is throwing across the middle of the field and making reads.
Sure.
A lot of downfield fades, sideline routes in college. And he had the receivers to do it. Don't get me wrong, but I want to see more making reads and hitting the middle of the field. I think if he can do that at the NFL level, I think it's an easy top 10. But I don't think that happens right away. I think for him to be top 10, his feet have to carry a lot of the load.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else for Washington here before we call her?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. All right. Hey, that was fun, man. This is getting really fun now. Hey, thanks, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will be back next week with AFC and NFC South, and we will go over these guys team by team and see what we can come up with. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.